Hello and welcome to Live from the Eagle's Nest. We're coming to you from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's National Conservation Training Center near Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And that's the location of this big eagle's nest that we're looking at online right now. And we see the male eagle feeding these young ones. We've got 3 in the nest right here. And so we'll be taking a look at those for the next half hour, 40 minutes or so, and answering as many questions as we can. We've got some nice videos to show you. Before we get started today, I want to say thanks to everyone joining us. I'm Randy Robinson, and a little bit later I'll be joined by my colleague Megan Birdie in the NCTC studio. So thanks to the Outdoor Channel that does all the streaming, the Friends of the National Conservation Center, our production team in the studio, Bald Eagles 101, the Eaglet Monsters, and really everyone who enjoys watching these American bald eagles. We've got some great folks online that help us document almost minute to minute, if you will, a group of citizen scientists who post when the eaglets get fed, and pretty much everything that goes on in the nest is documented on the online chat room, which is on the Outdoor Channel page. These pages are also available on YouTube, but the only chat room that we have is on the Outdoor Channel. So if for some reason you're not seeing the chat normally, it's the Outdoor Channel page you need to go to. Now, speaking of chat, any questions that come in today, go ahead and put them into the YouTube live chat that you're looking at now. And we are looking at a close-up view of the nest. You see a couple of fish in there. The male has been very good about bringing in fish. And speaking of the male, that's him that we're looking at. You see he's got a few black feathers on the back of his head. If he turns his head up towards the camera, we'll get a little bit better view. But the male and female do take turns brooding the young ones or keeping them warm, and also bringing fish in. He's a little bit smaller. The female is larger, so he's a little more agile. He's a little bit better at catching fish, but both of them are certainly capable of catching fish and small game to feed these ever-growing young ones. Now today, the first one hatched is 7 days old. It hatched on March 20th, the first day of spring. And then the second hatch was March 22nd, and the third, March 24th. So the second 2 are 5 days and 3 days old. So you can tell a big difference if we get to see them lined up. You'll see there's kind of large, medium, and small eaglets, and they're 7, 5, and 3 days old, respectively. And we want to say hello to Mrs. Cogdill's class, kindergarten through second, out in Boyer Valley Elementary near Dow City, Iowa. Thanks for joining us today. And we've got some other folks online that I want to say hello to as well. Let's see, Charlene is asking me, I'll go ahead and get into some questions. Charlene is asking, let me see if I can pull down that question again. How do you tell the difference between Scout and Bella? Well, the black feathers on the back of his head, the male, that's who's on the nest right now. He's just got a very few black feathers, but he's also a little bit smaller. If you see the 2 of them together, then the female is going to be the bigger one. Pamela's asking, when does naming begin? I think you all usually ask school children to name the eaglets. Yes, we'll wait a few weeks till they get older, make sure that they're all okay, Pamela. It's usually the local elementary school that names the eagles. The Fish and Wildlife Service, NCTC, does not name the eagles, but it's our local elementary school that does. Hello to Rosanna from Massachusetts. And Charlene says it's so windy all the time, I worry about the babies. Hello from Rhode Island. All right, yeah, it's been a very windy spring. We've had a lot of big wind here, but these are great adult birds. They take very good care. They have their protection, their feathers protect them. Of course, the young ones have no protection now. They need to be protected from the wind and the rain and the snow and the sun. until they start to get adult feathers. And that's going to be a good 5 weeks or so before we see that. Hello to Sheila from North Carolina. And B says, what a turnaround for Scout. He's doing so great. Yeah, he really is. The Scout is the male, as he's known online, Bella, the female. But Scout last year wasn't really, he was a young bird. He was about 4 years old last year. And he just really didn't know what to do, apparently. He has learned over this past year. They built a lower nest together. And this year, he's doing 100% better. He's been brooding, taking turns with the female brooding, feeding the young ones, bringing dry grass in, bringing sticks, bringing lots and lots of fish. You can see some big fish in the nest right now. We're looking at the wide angle view there. You can see some of the buildings of the National Conservation Training Center in the background. We've got a 540-acre campus, and this nest is on the far, kind of the west end of the campus. The Potomac River is very nearby. You can't see it in this view, but it's down in the valley. And on the far side of the river valley would be Maryland. So we're very close to the Maryland border here in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia. So Mrs. L says our third grade class has loved following the nest. We would like to know more about the eaglets' diet, how much they eat, what they eat, and any foods they cannot eat, etc. Well, luckily, they don't have any peanut allergies, Mrs. L. They can eat almost anything that is brought into the nest, primarily fish. That's the favorite food by far of the adults. Fish is high in protein, it's high in moisture. Remember, these little guys can't get a drink of water for about 3 months. Can you imagine that? 3 months before they're able to be big enough to fly out of the nest and down to the river. So all of the moisture they get is from the food that they eat. Fish is high in moisture and protein. That's their favorite food. But having said that, if they can't find fish, if the water's too high or too muddy or covered with ice, they'll go after anything they can find. And that might be a groundhog, a squirrel, a snake, any rabbit, any kind of small game on the ground. They're really not picky. But when they're feeding young ones, fish is their favorite. The adults also eat carrion. They're scavengers, so they'll eat a roadkill, for example, or something that they might find dead out there in the field or in the woods, as a vulture would. Yep, a lot of people commenting on Scout the male doing a great job this year. So go ahead and keep those questions coming in. We'll keep an eye on the nest right now, and if we see them start to do another feeding, we'll take a look. Hey, Rob, could we switch down to the lower camera now? We'll take a real quick look at that lower cam. So last fall, the eagle pair started building this nest. Now, we didn't know which nest they were going to lay eggs in back in the fall, so we decided we would put a camera there just in case they used this nest. However, they chose to use the big upper nest that we saw a moment ago, but the lower nest is there kind of as a backup. Most likely, when the young ones get big enough to fly, they'll probably use that as a learning platform. But that's the lower nest. It's ready to go. It's got straw in it, and it would certainly be a usable nest. But this pair is not going to share that nest. No other bald eagle is going to come and use that nest. They're very territorial, as we saw yesterday when a young 2-year-old eagle came into the nest, and it was probably looking for food. It was likely hungry, looking for food, but the female was very upset. She chased off that young one, and we saw that yesterday. If you go online, you'll be able to see some recording that Deb Steck and Paul Kolnick posted there from yesterday. So hello to Jules from Arkansas. And Charlene's asking, is there any chance of snow, or is that through? Not very likely. I think we're through with the snow for this year. So B's asking, the intruder from yesterday, where do you think it came from, or have you seen it in the area before? We have seen, there's many young ones in this area, B. Hard to say where he or she came from. Could have been a young one from this nest a couple of years ago. Judging from the feathers, that bird is about 2.5 years old. Could it come from upstream, downstream? Just very hard to say. Even if it was an offspring of this nest, these current adults don't want another large eagle in the nest or really anywhere around the nest. So they're going to chase off any bird they might see. We have an idea how old Bella is, Pamela asked. She is about 12 years old, Pamela. She came here in 2018. So that was 7 years ago, 7 years ago. And she was about 5 years old at the time. So she's about 12. Hello from Rose out in LA. Good to have you here, Rose. Bella did an excellent job. Yeah, she chased away that juvie yesterday, the juvenile. Steve and Dale Brewer, hello from Southern Maryland. Thank you for this wonderful experience. Great to have you guys here. Why, Grateful Girl is asking, why do they build nests without any cover? Do they prefer the openness? They do. They're big birds. They've got a wingspan of 7 feet. So when they stretch their wings out, it's the width of this nest. Rob, if you could go to our wide shot for a moment, we'll see how big this nest is. It's about 8 feet across, about 5 feet deep. And when they stretch their wings out, wingtip to wingtip, you'll see how big the nest really is. Their wings are about 7 foot, at least the female. So if they had a cover over the nest, they would be it'd be hard for them to get in and out. So eagles prefer being close to the top of a big tree without too many branches. A tree with a whole bunch of branches would bug them. They could hit their wings on it. So this is the kind of a tree they prefer. And as far as cover goes, the adult eagle will provide that. If it's a hot sunny day, they'll spread their wings out like an umbrella. If it's a raining, same thing. Some people call that a mumbrella. And it works very well to protect the young eaglets. So Barbara's asking, she's from Tennessee, when would these eaglets be expected to fledge? About mid-June in this area. So it takes roughly about 11 to 12 weeks for them to grow to adult size. And before they can fly, right around mid-June is what we're looking at here. Linda's asking, how's the little one doing? Understand it possibly has a puncture wound. But we don't know that for sure, Linda, if that's the little one. It could be the middle one. We did see a little bit of a puncture wound yesterday. Well, what looks like it might be a puncture, we can't really say. Yesterday, when the young eagle came in, the female jumped up to chase it away, and the wind was blowing so hard it brought her back down onto the nest. She knew the eaglets were there. She tried to avoid them, but she came on a couple of them. Apparently, they're okay. They seem to be fine. So we're not going to worry about it too much. If they have a little nick or something, they'll get over. They all appear healthy to us, so hopefully that won't be an issue for us. Mrs. L's class is asking, can you explain a little bit about the life cycle? How long will their feathers be gray? When will they be considered juvenile adult? Well, right now you can see they've got this gray fluff that down, but very soon that's going to change. In about 2 weeks, you're going to see it turn into a darker gray, more like a sort of a woolly, and that's kind of a thermal down. That gives them a little bit more protection. Then in about 5 weeks, you'll see them start to get their pin feathers or blood feathers. Those feathers have a blood supply. That's the beginning of the adult feathers. And eventually those will grow into adult feathers. So when they're about 2 months old, they'll mostly be covered in adult feathers, but they're going to be all black. They're not going to get that white head and white tail until they're 5 years old, and that's mating age. Some biologists believe that when they get the white head and tail, that's a sort of a signal that they're mating age. So they do change color a lot over those years. A 2-year-old, for example, would have a lot more white underneath, but they won't get the white head and tail until they're 5 years old. That's a great question. So Rose is saying, Scout is doing well, still learning to feed. Yep, he has been feeding. He's still getting the hang of it. Not quite as good as the female is, but we're going to give him an A for effort. If anything were to happen to the eaglets, would there be any intervention or let nature take its course? We do the latter, B. We'll let nature take its course unless there's some obvious human involvement there. So we always have to play those things by ear. But think about this: there are hundreds of eagles' nests, if not thousands, across the country. There are a few of them that have cameras on, like this one. Um, Things happen at these nests all the time. We do let nature take its course. That's always the best. Even if we wanted to get up there, it would be really physically impossible, and we would do more harm than good. If we tried to rescue one young eaglet, then the adults might take off and leave the other three exposed, and we might try to save one and really set the nest up for disaster. So it's best to let nature take its course. Jane's asking, how long have Bella and Scout been nesting in this area? Well, Bella's been here since 2018, but Scout came last year in 2024. So this is his second year at the nest. Yes, last year was his first. However, the nest itself has been here. Oh, and Laureen's asking, how old Scout? He's about 5 years old. He came last year about age 4. We could tell by his feathers. And I would say this year he's about 5 years old. So this is his second year at the nest. Now, the nest has been here since 2003. And it's been a very productive nest. The original pair were here for a number of years. And then the original male disappeared in 2013. The original female disappeared in 2018. So over those years, since 2003, we've had 3 different males and 2 different females. So bald eagles, a lot of people ask, do they mate for life? They do, but there's a big but there. If something happens to the other bird, then another male or female may come in and fight for that territory. That's not uncommon. We've seen it at this nest and many other nests. They're aggressive birds. They're very territorial, and they will fight for their territory and their nest and their mate. So we saw that happen last year. Our longtime male, people knew him as Smitty. He'd been here since 2013. He disappeared back in the fall of 2004. So that's the way nature is. And it always takes its course. So right now we've got a couple of videos lined up. We'll take a look at 1 or 2 of those. If you could cue those up, Rob. Our first one is from March 18th, and this is a red-shouldered hawk. Now, I don't know if you can hear the audio out there today, but the red-shouldered hawks have a definite kind of a squeal or a squall. And if you watch it online, you can hear it. At any rate, you can see it circling in the distance back there. And just to show you how they defend their territory, that's this red-shouldered, if you watch it just a little bit, it's going to come up from down below. And I don't think it maybe knew that there was a nesting bald eagle in there. At any rate, you'll see what happens. And while we're waiting for that red-shouldered hawk to come in, remember, this is recording. Right there it is. That's a red-shouldered hawk. And now you see the bald eagle. He spread his wings out in the nest, and he's squawking, and he scared off that red-shouldered hawk. So yesterday we saw a similar thing, only it was a young bald eagle, a 2-year-old. And again, the female was on the nest this time. She actually got up. Now we're still back on the recording. That's the female coming in, and the male is on the nest. So they did a good job of protecting their nest. All right, Rob, if we could go to our next video, we want to give folks a view of the hatch, the first hatch that was on March 20th. This was 1 week ago today, the first day of spring. And this would be the hatch of E10, or the 10th eaglet coming from this female in this nest, or hence the name E10. So we've got E10, E11, and E12 all hatched now. But that's the first view that we had of the first hatch 1 week ago, 7 days ago, on the first day of spring. In this video, the other two eggs have not hatched yet, but you see the female rolling the eggs. That evenly distributes the heat, and she's going to get right back on the young one. When they first hatch, they're very weak. It takes a lot of energy to get out of the shell. Sometimes it can take 12 to 14 hours to get out of there, and it gives after about 6 hours, then they're about ready to take their first bites of food. But it takes them a little while to get their energy built up. So thanks to Deb Steck for that recording right there. And I'll just take a minute here to say you're watching live from the Eagle's Nest from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's National Conservation Training Center near Shepherdstown, West Virginia. We're looking at the big Eagle's Nest here. And right now I'd like to introduce Megan Birdie. Megan is our national librarian for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service here at NCTC. Megan will tell us a little bit about what she does and introduce a few books on eagles. I know we've got a number of teachers with us today and students, and Megan will share some of those books and online resources. Thanks for joining us, Megan.
Hey everybody, so glad to be joining you today. So like Randy said, my name's Megan Birdie. I'm the National Librarian for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And what that means is I run the library that we have here at the Fish and Wildlife Service. Part of what I do is helping the biologists and other people who work here for the service access the information that they need to protect our wildlife, plants, and habitats. My favorite part of my job is helping people and learning something new every day. So I, like you, love to watch the Eagle Cam, and I'm excited to share some resources that can help you learn more about eagles when you're not tuned into the broadcast. So I'm going to start out with something that a lot of you might be familiar with. It's a part of the Eyewitness series. This is Eagle and Birds of Prey. So this has awesome illustrations and great information about eagles, not just bald eagles, but also other kinds of raptors or birds of prey. You can learn about how they fly, how they hunt, how they eat, and it's a really good way to get to know those kinds of birds. Next, I'm going to show you an online resource, and this is something free and accessible to everybody, especially if you love birds. This is Cornell Lab of Ornithology's All About Birds. You can access this at allaboutbirds.org, and you can get the life history and identification information about bald eagles and all kinds of birds. You can learn about where you can find them. Oops. There we go. Bald eagle. You can learn about where you can find them, how to identify them, and even listen to their sounds. So you can hear that bald eagle call and know what it is when you are out in the field. Another great online resource for learning about the bald eagle comes right from the Fish and Wildlife Service. We have species profiles on fws.gov that explain the characteristics of species, where you can find them, and you can also find some really cool pictures of both adult and juvenile eagles here. You can also find where you might find eagles at our national wildlife refuges on the map. So if you visit a national wildlife refuge, maybe you'll see an eagle there. If you're interested in eagle recovery stories, whether that's as a species or stories of wildlife rehabilitation, I've got a great title for you that I want to share. It's called Beauty and the Beak, and this is by Deborah Lee Rose. It is the story of how eagle named Beauty was found injured in Alaska, and Janie Veltkamp, who is a raptor biologist, worked with 3D printing technology to rehabilitate Beauty and make it possible for her to eat again. This won an award from AAAS, and it's a great STEM title. Deborah Lee Rose has published a number of books which are awesome for your classroom. It even contains some information in the back about how to teach with this book. So this is one I love to share with folks, Beauty and the Beak by Deborah Lee Rose. For older learners of all ages, this is a really newly published book called Return to the Sky by Tina Morris. It's the story of how Tina Morris, then a student at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, was one of the first women to work in eagle conservation. She helped reintroduce the bald eagle to New York State at Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge. And this book is her story. Maybe you can find it in your public or local library, and it's a great book for learners of all ages. Did you know that the bald eagle only officially became our national bird in 2024? If you're interested in learning more about the history of the eagle in our country and the history of the eagle as a symbol of the United States, I've got a couple title recommendations for you. First is The Bald Eagle by Norman Pearl, and this is part of the Symbols of America series. Oh, this is Terry Allen Hicks. And it explains how the bald eagle came to be the symbol of the United States. The founding fathers didn't all agree that they should put the bald eagle on the seal of the United States. It also has the story of the bald eagle's near extinction and recovery. So you might be able to find this in your school or public library. Now, for older learners, grown-ups, other people in your life who love eagles, I have to recommend The Bald Eagle by Jack E. Davis. And this is a really rich history of the bald eagle in America, from its cultural significance to how it did become our national bird. I love this book, and I really hope that you enjoy it too. Hopefully, you can find some interesting titles in your school library or your public library to learn more about eagles. And I'm going to turn it back to Randy to go back to the nest. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Megan. That was some great information, and I hope teachers and students will be able to check out some of those books. There's a lot of information online as well about bald eagles, and it is a lot of fun to watch them online on different eagle cams across the country. Bald Eagles 101 is a Facebook group, and Deb Steck has set that up. They often answer questions here on the National Conservation Training Center Eagle Cam as well. So there are many places that you can get your questions answered, and some of those books are great for that. Also, Mike or Rob, we have a hot mic in the studio. If you could check that out, please. Let's see. We'll go back to a few questions here. Patty is asking, how large is the nest? It's about 7 or 8 feet across, about 5 feet deep. She's asking, is there any fear as the eaglets become larger, they can accidentally fall from the nest or be pushed out? We're not too worried about that. That happens occasionally, but this is a big nest, and they build them big on purpose. Every year they add sticks to it. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Sometimes nests can get so big that it becomes, it makes a tree top heavy and it actually falls over. We're not worried about that with this tree. It's a big, strong sycamore. It's 100 feet tall, over 100 years old. However, the limb holding it has been dead for some time. However, we've had lots of wind this spring, and that nest probably weighs a ton, and it's holding up very well. But that happens. Eagle nests don't last forever. Sometimes they come down, but these guys do have a plan B about 15 feet below. This past spring and fall, they built another nest, so they do have a backup there. The young ones also have some massive talons. Their talons grow faster than the rest of their body, so they have a good grip on those limbs, even if it is windy. Let's see. Pamela says, I miss Smitty. Yeah, he was a great eagle. He went missing last fall, or actually the fall of 2023. Can the baby see anything yet? Yeah, they can see. They've got their eyes open. Linda's asking, no, we don't know. Their vision may be very blurry, but their eyes are open, so we assume they can see reasonably well.
I saw your email come through.
Let's see. How big are eagle eggs? Mrs. L's class wants to know. How big are the eagle eggs compared to a person's hand? Well, they're smaller than a person's hand. They would be bigger than a chicken egg, about the size of a turkey or goose egg, or maybe about the size of a kindergartner's hand, a little hand. around that size. Charlene's asking, what is most crucial for the baby's survival? Food, weather, parental care? It's all of the above, Charlene. And it really takes two adults to raise young ones successfully. They would be it would be very difficult for them if as a single bird, because they've got to go get food, and while they're going to get food, the nest is not protected. So that's why it takes a pair. While one is out there fishing, the other is taking care of the young ones. And so, yeah, they have to have plentiful food. Luckily, the Potomac is right nearby here. There's in the nest right now. There's several fish, including a few days ago they brought in a groundhog, a couple of squirrels. So they've been eating very well, and that's all good. And then, of course, the parental care, like I mentioned, that's crucial as well. So, even after they get out of the nest, they're not totally in the clear. They've got to learn to hunt and fish on their own. And biologists believe that about 50, 60%, maybe a little higher, of the young ones survive the first year. That's the most difficult year for them. And the other half don't. So just fledging from the nest is a feat in itself. And let's take a look at what's going on in the nest here. It looks like they're feeding here, but their back is to us, so it's a little hard for us to see. Rob, could you go to the wide angle cam for a minute, and we'll see what's going on there. We do have 3 cameras available. If you go to theoutdoorchannel.com/EagleCam, you'll find 3 cameras to choose from. This is the wide angle view. You can see some of our buildings at the National Conservation Training Center in the background. But the close-up cam is the one we just saw. And then the third cam is on the second nest, or the lower nest, which is about 15 feet below. So go ahead and keep those questions coming in. Let's see, what do we have here? Has the youngest eagle had a decent feed yet? Yes, we've seen the youngest eagle being fed, and by the way, here's how it works when they do the feeding. The oldest is the strongest. He is 4 days older than the youngest one. He's bigger. He's stronger. He sits up. He wants the food first, and he's going to grab it. And if the other two try to get it, then they're going to get bonked or pecked on. That's very common. It happens at pretty much every nest in the country. Very common. They're aggressive birds, and from right out of the shell, they're aggressive. They have to be. That's how they survive in the wild. But they'll grow out of that after a while. After they get so big, they'll kind of stop that. And the way the adults deal with that is they'll feed the bigger one, the stronger one first. Let him get filled up. He'll fall over and go to sleep into a food coma. Then they'll feed the second two. And the same with the second, gets filled up, and then they'll feed the third. So they'll all get fed as long as food is plentiful. Now, if you have a situation where there's an eagle's nest where food is not plentiful for whatever reason, maybe they can't catch fish, maybe something happened to adult, then that young would be in danger of not being able to get enough food. So that's the pecking order. It's very common in all birds, chickens, ducks, turkey, bald eagles, you name it, pecking order. Here's a question. What was the courtship like between Scout and Bella? Was it instant attraction, or did it take some time? It took some time. It's never like it is in the movies. They take some time to get used to each other. And that's been the case over the years. What we've seen at this nest and many other nests where a new bird comes in, those birds at first will get chased off by the female, but eventually they pick one, and now we're getting a good shot of the 3, and the youngest one's on the right, the oldest one's kind of there in the middle, but you can see the size difference between the two. And now I believe that's the male there. Yep, that's Scout. The black feathers on the back of his head. That's how we can tell. He's having a hard time getting those little ones out from under. Now you can see the size of the wing there. Another habit Scout has is he likes to catch flies. Flies really annoy him, and you can imagine with a half dozen fish in the nest there, the flies are attracted. So flies really bug Scout, and he'll be nipping at them from time to time and watching out for them. They're no real concern, but you see the little wings on the young one there. Now, as they grow over the next few weeks, you're going to see their beak and their talons grow a lot faster than the rest of their body. Um, when they're about 6 weeks old, they're kind of clown-like. They'll be falling over, stumbling over their feet, but eventually their wings are and their feathers are one of the last things to really uh, fully grow out. And again, that's going to take 3 months, but it's amazing that they grow from. Right now, they're about the size of your fist. They might weigh 6 ounces, if that. And in 3 months' time, they're going to be the size of an adult bird and with a wingspan of 7 feet. And they won't have a white head or tail, remember, till they get 5 years old, but they'll be as big as an adult and they'll be a dark brown color and they'll be ready to fly out of the nest in mid-June. Yeah, the young ones are very active. It's a chore to get them under. They have a brood patch. I didn't mention that. The brood patch is a place, a spot of bare skin on the adult birds, and that is an area. It's kind of like a heating pad. There's a lot of blood vessels there, so the feathers are gone. They want to get that brood patch right against the eggs when they're incubating. That keeps the eggs nice and warm. And likewise, now that all the eggs are hatched, they try to get that brood patch against the young ones. It's not so important on a warm day like this. The sun's out. That little one is not cold at all. In fact, he's panting a little bit. Eagles pant like dogs do to cool off a little bit. He's out enjoying the sunshine, and the other two are underneath there. He's getting pretty rambunctious. So we have one more video to share with you today here before we close up. Go ahead and send some more questions in if you like. And if Rob could cue up our hatch video, this would be from March 24th. That would be our last hatch. Let's see, that's the 23rd. Oh, this is a feeding here. Okay, we'll take a look at this one. This is a good one. You can see the two young ones getting fed. This is March 23rd. And there's a close-up, and the third egg still hasn't hatched at this point. So this was 4 days ago. And actually, it's just maybe 12 hours before that third egg is going to hatch. But you can see how the female is very carefully feeding the young. She breaks off. Notice there's no black feathers on the top of her head, and she's bigger. So we know that's the female, as known as we know as Bella. And very carefully getting little pieces of fish and feeding those young ones one at a time. And the little ones will squeal and grab. And, you know, she wants them to be aggressive. She wants them to come after that food, and they need to be aggressive from the start. And Rob, we've got, okay, here it is. Yeah. So we've got one more video to share here. This is a great one. I've never seen a hatch happen this fast. Usually, you can take a look at the egg there. You see the little guy coming out. So that's March 24th. That's the third hatch happening in the video that you see right now. There's the little one, the two that are out there a few days old. but E12, as we're calling him, the 12th eaglet that hatched from this female at this nest, E12, coming out slowly, but it takes a little time. It can actually take 12 to even 24 hours for a young eaglet to get out of the eggs. It takes a lot of energy. They first start by, they have an egg tooth. It's a sharp little bump on their beak. They make a hole in the egg, and then that's called a pip. And once they get that, then they keep pecking away at it, and eventually they get a crack. And again, it takes a lot of energy, but they have food. The yolk of the egg is their nourishment. So they don't need to eat as soon as they get out. In fact, they're not even strong enough to eat for about 6 hours after they hatch like this. They're just going to lay there. You can see they're kind of wet from being inside the egg, but this one's just about out there. And this all occurred in a period of a few minutes. Thanks to Paul Kolnick for recording this video for us here. And you can see the little wing right there come out. And in just the head of the eaglet is still in the right-hand side of the eggshell, the broken eggshell. That's where the head is, but you'll see that one come out in just a little bit. So there it is, almost. So let's see, Jan is asking, do they live in the nest year-round even without the babies? No, they don't, Jan. The nest is really just for raising the young ones, and it's primarily in use from about November when they start rebuilding, bringing sticks in, and then December and January, it's mating time. February, mid-February is when they lay their eggs. Mid-March is when they hatch. From mid-March to mid-June is the prime time in the nest. That's when it's going to see the most action. And then about mid-June when they fledge, they'll come back even after they've left the first time. The young ones will come back every now and then. They do associate the nest with food, but their trips back there are fewer and farther between. They're mostly spending their time down at the river, learning to hunt and fish, maybe hanging out with other young eagles. So by the end of the summer, they're pretty much on their own. And so, no, we don't see them in the nest year round. And by the way, we only do the camera work in the fall. So if we needed to work on a camera, we would only do that about mid-October when the adults aren't around very much. Of course, we never want to disturb them. We would never want to go up there this time of the year when they've got young, and we wouldn't want to do anything to disturb the nest. We've even got the area below the nest cordoned off with signs, so we don't want anybody going, too close to that nest tree. Even though we have people on our campus all the time, we do have the signs up to ask them to stay well away from the nest. So that's how the year works in an eagle's nest, and pretty much any nest in the country would be similar, although northern latitudes, of course, the season is later in the spring. Down in Florida and the southern latitudes, it's going to start earlier. In the southern eagles, it's kind of interesting. They're a little bit smaller than the mid-latitude eagles like we see here in West Virginia or along the Atlantic coast. Now, up in Alaska, they're a little bit bigger. So the colder weather, they need that little bit bigger body mass to keep the young ones warm. So Connie's saying, usually you'd see all three chicks up there trying to get fed, but I see one is missing. A post yesterday showed that had an injury, possibly a puncture. Are you aware of this? Yes, we saw that, Connie. We're not too concerned about it. It could have been a talon scratch. Yesterday, a young eagle came in. The female was defending the nest. The wind blew her back in several times. She came down. She was aware the young ones were there, but one of them might have got nicked. Hopefully, they're fine. We haven't seen any evidence that that's any kind of an issue. They all appear healthy, fine. They're all eating well. There's 3 in there. You didn't see the third one because it's under the nest. You won't always see all 3 of them unless the adult totally gets off the nest. But they're good shape. They appear to be healthy. They're eating well, and hopefully, if that was a little nick, then it'll heal over and they'll they'll continue growing, and they do grow very fast. So Mark says, super good work listening from the eastern slope of Catoctin Mountain, a few miles south of Camp David, up in Maryland, the mountains of Maryland. Okay, good to see you, Mark. Well, I think that looks like all of our questions for today. Connie was worried about the young ones. Thanks for your interest, Connie. They all appear to be fine, and they're eating well and getting good care. So with that, I want to thank Megan Birdie for joining me today, and all of you out there on YouTube Live. Thanks for joining us. We had some great questions. Welcome, or thanks for all of the schools joining us today, all of the teachers. Our next program will be April 10th. That'll be Thursday, April 10th, for our next Live from the Eagle's Nest broadcast. And until then, enjoy the eagle watching.